Okay, so I'm going to work through the Cambridge International AS and A-Level Specimen paper number 2 practical from 2025. This is for the students at Vijay International School in the Seychelles. We're just going to work through this step by step. I'll pause the video and just do lots of little recordings and try and explain things. The idea is to do this whole paper so that you can work through with the paper and as practice for your actual prac exam, which is coming up shortly. Okay, now one of the things that I'll do is I'll try to explain each step as I do it rather than just do it and then expect you to watch the video. I kind of want to explain it as I go, so we'll get started. Now you can see this is a specimen paper and it goes for 2.5 hours, right? So we'll try and get this done in a lot less than that, but let's work our way through it. So we go down and the first thing it says is that we've been supplied with CSV, MP4, CSV, MP3. So I know straight away from my studies that the CSVs are comma-separated valued Excel sheets, essentially. They're spreadsheets that I could open up and get the data off from those two spreadsheets. I know that the MP4s are both going to be video files and the MP3 is going to be an audio file, right? So I can see straight away, I think we're going to be doing a video and some sound and maybe a spreadsheet or a database, one of the two, right? So you must use the most efficient method to solve each task. All work produced must be professional standard and suit the business context. You work for Donna's Dance School and will design a physical entity relationship database, ERD, based on a conceptual ERD, an extract of the current class list. Students are adults 18 years and over, juniors are 11 years to 17 years, and starlets are under 11 years. Teachers can teach more than one class. Classes to be taken are modern, tap, ballet, street, and contemporary. There are 30 different classes and 240 different students. Each student is given a unique code with 2 letters and 3 digits. Each class course has the same time each week. Students can attend any class suitable for their age group. Now, Cambridge also provides you with these files, right? So I've got them right here. These are the files. And they're exactly, it says up there, there's 5 different files, there's 5 different files here. If we're going to be creating an entity relationship diagram, I'm probably going to be looking at the 2 CSV files straight away, but let's work down our way through it. Now, the entity relationship diagram, you should know what this is. Now, if you don't, you can go to your glossary of terms that we've been making in class, and I'll see if we can just run this here. Here we go. Here's our glossary of terms we've been making in class. I can either put in ERD, or the ERD will do, right? So entity relationship diagram, a diagram that represents the relationship between entities. For example, one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. So you should already know what that is, right? But if you don't, go to your glossary of terms for the practice and make sure that you understand that, or go and look it up in the book and read through it a little bit. But with our glossary of terms, it is actually already in there, right? So we've definitely done this in class. So let's go idle. I'm just going to quit out of idle. I just want to check that what my ERD was. Let's just scroll down and keep going through the test. Oh, and there it is there, right? So they've already done it. Examine this conceptual ERD from the extract from the class list. Okay, so I can see straight away just looking at this, it says conceptual, right? The problem is here, it hasn't got the length or it hasn't got our data types in anywhere there. It's got our relationships, so we've got a one-to-many relationship, right? One line coming out, going to many, going into the class, and then we've got a many-to-one. So in other words, we could have one teacher and the teacher's name who could potentially teach lots of different classes on different days and times. They could have different students in their class, different groups, different age groups. So one teacher can teach many different classes. And if I look here, lots of different classes can have in them lots of individual students. So one individual student can go to many different classes if I go back that way, right? So this is an entity relationship diagram, but it's missing our data types, it's missing our primary keys, it's missing our lengths of our data and that sort of stuff. So this is the concept. So in actual fact, if we're going to be creating a entity relationship diagram, this is going to be what we're creating. We're actually going to just recreate this and add a little bit more data and information. So here's our first table. This looks like it's got class, date, time, teachers, students. I'm assuming students is everything under that line. down there. Students is going to be that section. Oh no, students is all of this section here. Teachers is this section here. Donna, Carla, Catherine, right? So it looks like I've only got those teachers and I've got all of these ones down here look like they're my students, right? So I'll have to check that. You need to go through and make sure you read everything and just go back and check all these things. Okay, so let's go through and save your physical ERD in a portable document format with a file name. Okay, so we do need to create an ERD for this, and that's our question number 1, right? So that's our question number 1, so let's get started on that. Now, if we were doing this in class normally, we would probably go down and we would use Lucid Chart. We've used this before in class, but in the exam you don't have a copy of Lucid Chart with you, so we're not going to do it in this. This is the chart program that we've used before to make flowcharts and a few other things. So that's one thing that you could use, but we haven't got that in the exam. We've got Word, so we're going to use Word. Here we go, and we are going to create this entity relationship diagram right here. Now, and we're going to add things to it. Now, the first thing I would do is I would actually change my page orientation because I want it to be wide so I can fit this whole thing across. So I would go File, Page Setup, change my page setup, leave it at leave that at A4, just make it landscape here so it's a wide document. Then I'm just going to zoom back a little bit to make sure that I can see everything there. Yeah, that looks pretty good, so that's going to work for me. Zoom in again, use my full screen up. Okay, now I've just got to create this, okay? But I also want to allow for a couple of columns here to make sure that I can put in 3 or 4 different things in here to show the relationship. Now, we have actually done this before too, so let's go through and do this. We're going to go Insert. So I'm over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to Insert, then I'm going to go to Shapes. Okay, so I'm going to click on Shapes here, and you can see it's a round corner, it's like a square or rectangle with round corners, right? So I'm going to go down and see if I can find it. Now, if you remember, we've used in our shapes before, we've used flowchart information in here. So this is kind of the section that I want to go to for my shapes. I could get it from somewhere else, I suppose, but this is where I'm going to go, so the flowchart section. I'm going to click there, and I'm going to draw my first shape, which is going to be roughly there. Okay, now, I don't want any fill color, so I'm going up here to change my fill to no fill. I've still got my black outline border. I'm just going to drag it down a little bit, give myself a little bit more space with this and just get it right over to here. Okay, now I want to have a line in the middle, so I'm just going to go and draw a line across there to allow that to be my line in the middle. Now this box, this actual outline here, I want this to be a text box, which I think it already is if I double click in there. But what I can do to make sure is I can go to this ABCD thing, just click on the ABCD there. Now I know it's a text box, right? I could type straight into there if I want. There we go. So I can do that if I want to. I don't want to do that yet, but I just can make sure of that. Now I actually am going to just reuse this box over and over again. So what I'm going to do is click that line and hold down Shift, click the outside. So you've got to hold down Shift so that you've highlighted both things. Then I'm going to go over here to the right-hand side, and I'm going to group those two objects together. Right. So now I've got this box-type shape here that I can use. Yep, perfect. Command-C or Control-C to copy it, Control-V to paste it. So now I've got 2 of them. And then I'll paste it again, and I should have 3 of them. Now, you can see from their diagram that there's actually a little bit deeper, right? So I might be able to click on here and just drag that down a little bit, make it a bit deeper. I might even need to go to this and actually move that back up. Yep, so there-ish, something like that. And then the same thing on this one, it's a little bit deeper, so I'm just going to drag it down, click on the individual line, drag it up to roughly where I want it so it looks the same. Okay, so I've roughly got the boxes correct. Now, the next thing is to draw these relationships. So we've got a 1 to many, and here we've got a many to 1. So it's essentially it's the same thing, just flip 360 or 180 degrees, right? So I'm going to go to Insert. Now, you could do this a whole pile of different ways, right? You could go through and get some lines and actually just draw the line, right? So there's my first line, get another line, get another line here, draw one down through that, yep. And then I could get my line here and go draw one about there, and then I just get another line again and draw one about there, right? So that's it, right? So I'm pretty happy with that. That's okay. I've made them blue by accident, which I didn't mean to do, so I'm just going to highlight all of them. So I'm just clicking all of them, click, click. So I've highlighted everything. I'm just going to go back to my insert. I'm just going to choose my shape. No, I'm going to change. I want to change the color of this. I should have done that before. Line color black. No, let's go to. Oh, I should have just done it the other way. Let's have a look. Shape. No. Okay, so there's blue there, so I want to actually make that black, right? So that's the way I could have done it. I'll just do it black. In fact, let's just go through and delete those really quickly. There's only 2 of them. And I'll go back to insert, shape, line. See, this is, I don't mind having these mistakes during the practice so you guys can see what happens. This could happen to you in the exam, right? So it's probably good that this is happening now for me. There we go. There's my one too many, and it's gone blue again. So right, so now I've got it black. Okay, let's go back to my home. Now I've got my relationship thing drawn here. What I want to do is actually I want to get all of that again. Click, click, holding down Shift, highlight all of that. I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to change this to group it all again if I can. Shape Format. Go to Group that item. I'm going to copy it, Command-C, V, so now I've got it twice there, and this time I'm going to go to this little round thing at the top right there, and I'm going to rotate it around 180 degrees. If I hold down Shift, it should go exactly to where I want it to be. Okay, so now I've got my little diagram thing, so I can click on that, and I can drag that roughly into place. I can even grab a corner here and reduce it down so it fits exactly between my diagram. So I've now got one to many, one to many. I grab this one and I can just do exactly the same thing here. Click this, click it there, grab the corner, drag it down, and I've got many to one, right? And I want to kind of get it about the same size, you know, so it looks like a proper entity relationship diagram, right? So I've done that, right? So that section's done. Now we want to go through and put these things in here, and I'm going to pretty much do it exactly the same as this. I'm going to try and copy it. Now, I can actually click in these boxes and type, but that's going to take me a bit of time to click and make sure that formatting's right and do all that sort of stuff. It's much quicker if I just go here to text box, right, and draw a text box. I'm going to draw one in here, and I'm going to type into here, teacher, right, and I'm just going to make sure that that is correct. Highlight that. Now, there's a couple of things I want to make sure that I get right here, because I can see that I've written the word teacher, but it's not really fitting, right? So I'm just going to go to home. I'm going to make sure that my font's a decent size, that it's legible, so it's 10. I'm going to say it's centered here, but I'm also going to make sure that it's centered on the page as well. So, in fact, let's just go that down a bit. There we go, there. Click that, click that. Right, so the other centering I'm talking about is here. You can see that it's centered there. I want to make sure that that's right. Drag that into place, bang, there. Now it's got a border around it, so I don't want a border around it. So I'm just going to click there. I'm going to go back to shape format. I'm going to say to border, no border, bang, there we go. So I've got my teacher. So now I've done the teacher one, I'm just going to copy that, Command-C, Command-V. I'm going to drag that exact same thing over to here. And I'm going to Command-V again, or Control-V again if you're on a PC. Do it again. And then go through and change the heading. So this one's going to be class. And this one's going to be student. Notice it's student singular. That's interesting. That's because it's one to many, right? So now we want to put in these other sections down here where we're going to do the writing. So I'm going to go to insert. I'm going to insert another text box. Draw a text box. I'm going to draw it into here. I'm going to try and take up as much of that space as I possibly can. I'm going to make sure it has no border around the outside, and I'm going to write in teacher ID, and I'll also put in T name. Now, I'm going to actually make this font smaller, so I'm just going to go to here. I'm going to change my font back down to 10 point, because I do know that I want to add a few other types of things in here, and in here, and in here, right? So I'm just going to leave it there, and then I'm leaving it justified to the left-hand side, right? Now, I'm actually going to copy that as well. Command-C, Command-V, put that into this box. And you know, you can always extend these boxes down and all that sort of stuff if you run out of space, right? So there we go. I've got my teacher name, teacher ID. Now, this one, I'm just going to drag this down. I'm going to add a lot of things in there. I'm going to drag this one down. and add a few things in there. So let's start with teacher ID is in there. Student ID will be in there as well underneath that. So let's go ID. Okay, so let's put in the ones above that. Start with class ID, day, time, teacher ID, student ID, class type, and last one's going to be group. So my spacing's not too bad actually, it's worked out that it's alright. Put that about there. I mean, visually it's not as important as making sure you've got all the right things in here that you need to have. Student ID, forename, surname, and date of birth. Okay, so we're at a stage where all I've done is spent 5 minutes and I've recreated that exactly, right? But this is conceptual. So now we need to start looking at what needs to be put into here, right? What other information? I said to you I'm going to add 2 or 3 more columns in here. So there's a few things that I know that I need to add into here, right? So let's go down and have a look. The teacher ID. So the teacher's ID is going to be, it's probably going to be a number, or it's going to be a combination of number and text. Let's go up and read our question. Must be professional. Teachers can be one or more classes. Classes can be taken. There are 30 different terms. Each student is given a unique code with 2 letters and 3 digits. Each class occurs in the same time each week. Okay, so if I'm looking at, I know this is letters and numbers. It can't just be an integer that I provide for the student ID, and I'm going to assume the same thing for the teacher ID. It can't just be an integer, it needs to be a variable character type in here. So when I go to here, you could put in, you could put in the word text if you're really stuck and you don't really know what you want to do. You could put in alphanumeric. The word alphanumeric would be fine. But we've been doing a lot of databases, and I would put in varchar, which is variable characters, which means it can be numbers and it can be letters, right? So, and that's the terminology we use for SQL for our databases. So I would actually try and keep using the same terminology all the way through the exam. So I'm going to put in there varchar. T name is going to be the same, right? So the teacher's name is going to be variable character. Or characters, but I'm going to put variable characters. Okay, so I'm going to put those in for my data types. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to put in. So let's go down and see what else we need to have in here. Length, we probably need to look at the length of each of those. So for the teacher, Donna's 5 letters, Carla is 5 letters, Catherine is what? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we could get someone with a longer name. Let's give them maybe, I don't know, 15 characters to play with, maybe 20. Let's give them 20. People have long names, right? So we might. All right, so now my tabs are not very good in here. My spacing is not very good in here. So, in fact, if you're in the exam, you're doing it quickly, you could just say 3 or 4 space in there. Didn't mean to do that. And then you put 3 or 4 spaces in here. About there. So you could play around with your tabs, but you're in an exam. Do you really want to have that time wasted playing with tabs? I'll just put a couple of spaces in for the purpose of this. Now, I just want to check this teacher ID again. I just want to read it, make sure that I can get this right, because, let's see. Teachers can teach more than one class. Classes can be taken in one time. It doesn't really say where the teacher ID length is. Students are given a unique code with 2 letters and 3 digits. So that's going to be a 5-character long for the student ID. Let's use the same for the teachers. It just says student, right? It doesn't say teacher anywhere there. So I'm going to guess that the teacher ID is going to be something similar, unless I've missed something on here. Teacher, group, type, time, day. It doesn't say anything on there for me about the teacher ID. So I'm going to guess the teacher ID is the same as the student ID. So in here, I'm just going to put my few spaces in, put it in as a 5-character long ID. Now, one more thing that I need to think about, and I know you guys will have already noticed this, there's a teacher ID, there's a class ID, and there's a student ID. So they're definitely going to be a primary key, right? So you need to put in here somewhere like a PK in there saying it's primary key. So now that's it. We've done the actual facts about this section of the relational diagram. We've just got to go through and do the same for all of these. Now, I will do this next one. I'll do it in here. And in fact, I'll do all of them and show you, but I'm just going to go through them a little bit quicker just because we kind of know what all these are going to be, right? So, class ID, let's have a look. Class is going to be taken in modern, tap, ballet, street, and contemporary. Okay, so maybe we it doesn't really say. I'm just going to guess that the ID is something like first 3 letters and then 2 names. It doesn't say what the ID is going to be. So let's have a look in here. Time, right, tap, modern, ballet. Okay, so maybe we just have text and have 5 words. Okay, it doesn't say any further down either, so let's just go through and work it out. So, I'm just going to go and do this. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 about there. Varchar. Variable character. I'm going to say my class ID. I'm going to keep it consistent with what I've been doing. So I'm going to say my is 5, and in this one it's going to be a primary key. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say is consistently for my primary keys. So I'm actually going to copy that, Command C. I'm going to go over the student ID here, and I'm actually just going to paste the same thing in there because we're saying that all of our IDs are using the same format. Okay, day. Now this one's an interesting one because we haven't come across this yet in this example. So here, our data type here is going to be date/time. So in a SQL database you can have a date-time structure. You can have it set up that way. You don't need to put in the amount of characters because it's already set up in its own sort of fixed way. So we just leave that exactly as it is there. Date, time, and then in actual fact time below that is going to be date, time as well. So I'm just going to put in here date, time. Okay. Well, I just like to try and line things up, but it's never going to line up properly because I didn't do it properly with tabs. But anyway. All right, student ID, teacher ID. Now, the teacher ID is going to be exactly the same as over there. Okay, so I need to paste into here the same information from my teacher section over here. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to retype it because I might as well. Varchar, it's going to be 5 characters. Now, it's not going to be a primary key in here. We've already got a primary key in this table. Now it's going to be a foreign key. So I'm going to put in FK because remember we're getting the key from this table. We're making a relational database or a relational diagram. So this is taking the primary key from here and it's becoming the foreign key in here. And in fact, it's going to be the same for this one. We're going to be taking the primary key from here and making it the foreign key over here. Okay, so I can, in actual fact, I can just highlight all of that because we're using a consistent data type. I can just go Command C, go to here, Command V, paste that into there, which is perfect. And we've got our student ID section done there as well, right? Now, our last 2, class group, let's go and have a look at our file again. Our class group is going to be, right, they're words, so they're variable character. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think starlet is the biggest one. If we look back under here, starlet, juniors, adults, right? So starlet's going to be the biggest one. So in fact, it's 8 starlets, right? It only says starlet here, but up there it says starlets. So I'm actually going to make that 8 the class type. And it's going to be a variable character again, varchar, and it's going to be 8 characters long, and that's about right. I'm just taking out these full stops, words, putting in full stops for me, which I don't want them there. Okay, and the last one is going to be my group type, and my group type is going to be, let's have a look, groups. They are my group types. Okay, so wait a minute, we've got type here and we've got group here. So let's just go back to that question and read that question again. It says class type, group. I said class type of these ones, right? So I might not even need 8. Let's have a look. Classes we've taken: modern, tap, ballet, street, and contemporary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that needs to be 12 in actual fact. That one there needs to be 12. And this one here needs to be 8. Right, perfect, right? So now I've gone through and I've done this one. My variable characters, data, date and time don't need any numbers. I've got my primary key, I've got my foreign key. Now I need to go through and do this last one here. For name, it's going to be variable character. And for name, you can just guess how long someone's name's going to be. So let's just put something in here, make something up. Right, so people's first names could be 15, they could be 20 characters long. Let's give them 12, right? Let's give them 12. It doesn't really matter as long as you're giving them enough space so that they can type their first name in, right? So we're going to say 12. Surname's going to be the same. You need to give them enough space to type their surname in. It could be a lot longer than that. Maybe it could be 20. Let's leave it as 12 for the purpose of this. And date of birth is going to be date time, right? So we've only really got 2 different data types in here. Okay, so for me, that's it. I think we've finished this first question. Question 1 here. It says, examine the conceptual ERD and extract from the class list. Okay, so we've got it looking pretty much exactly the same. We've put in our data types, we've put in our lengths, and we've put in our keys, our primary keys and foreign keys. I think we're finished on that. Save your physical ERD in a portable document format, so it's a PDF, by the following names. Right, so this is the next section. We need to make sure that you do this correctly, right? So I'm going to go to here, I'm going to say File, Save As. And when I go to save this, I can save it a couple of ways, right? So I'm going to go to my specimen paper. This is where I've got, in fact, on my desktop, I think I created a folder. Let's have a look. No, let's do specimen paper. This is where it is. And this is my supporting files, right? So I'm saving it in the same section next to my supporting files. So this is really important because when you come to, say you're doing a spreadsheet and they're calling information from other files, maybe from the CSV files, you want to have the 2 files saved next to each other, right? So I want to save it into here. Now, I could go to here and I could go ERD, and it gives me the exact format that I have to save it. ERD underscore center number, candidate number, right? ERD underscore 1234 underscore 7777. I'm just making those up, candidate number, student number. Now, if I do that, that's going to save it as a Word document, right? So I could do that for my own purpose in case I need to edit it. I could save it as a Word document. But the thing actually says I need to save it as a PDF. So I'm going back to do it. I'm leaving it the name exactly the same, no other changes. You can see my Word document's already in there, but I am changing my file format down here at the bottom to PDF, right? So I'm changing it to a PDF, and I'm just going to go export. Right now, I want to check that. I want to make sure that's right. So I go down to my folder down here, and I can see I've got 2 files here, a Word document and a PDF. It actually says PDF there. I can double click on the PDF and open it up and have a look at it. It all fits on the page. All of my red underscores are gone and all that sort of stuff. It looks right. It looks happy. I'm really happy with that. That's the first question done. 15 marks. Well done. Right, so now we're going to work our way through the next set of questions that are on this page. You can see there's a 6, a 4, a 1, a 14. So 14 is going to be a longer one, right? But these other ones, we should be able to work our way through the rest of these. So let's go through it step by step. Open and examine the data in file specfind.csv. So I'm going to go down to the files they've given me, specfind, right click, and I'm going to open with Microsoft Excel. Now, of course, you could open Excel first, go File, go Open, all that sort of stuff. You know how to open a file, right? Save this file as a spreadsheet with the name find underscore and then your information. Okay, so here's my file here, specfind. I'm going to say File, Save As. And when I do my Save As, I'm going to save it exactly as they say, find underscore, and then my, my candidate number, center number, underscore 7777. So that's just my made up number that I'm using down here. So I've saved it exactly right, and I'm saving it in the same folder where everything else is. I hit save, right? So I've done that. That's the first thing. Add the contents of the spec dance.csv to a new worksheet named Dance in your Find workbook. Right, so if I'm going down here, down the bottom here, you can see there's my first sheet, but I want to add a sheet in here. So I'm hitting plus, I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to call it Dance. Right now, is it capital or lowercase? Let's have a look. It is lowercase. So I want to make it exactly the way that the examiners have asked me to do it so that they can't take any marks off. So I've created one down here called Dance, right? Now it says, add the contents of Spec Dance as a new worksheet named Dance in your Find workbook. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to open up the one that's called Spec Dance. I'm going to open with Excel. And when I open that up, this is what I get. I get all of this information. Now you can do this a million different ways. I'm just going to click, hold down Shift, click to where I want to go. Make sure I've got all of my data there. So I've gone from 1 to 20, it looks like I've got a teacher, a class, and a month column here. I've got all of that. I'm going to say edit, copy, go over here, right click, paste. And because of the way it's set out, it should copy exactly the same, right? So there shouldn't be any issues with that. The formatting is the same, everything's the same. It should be exactly the same way. So I'm just going to close out of my Spec Dance here. There's a large amount of information. No, I don't need to save that, right? So I'm in my new folder here. Now, in the dance worksheet, extract the list of teachers' names. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually, I'm just going to hit save, right? Because I just want to make sure that that's saved. And then I'll go on to the next section, right? In the dance worksheet, extract the list of teachers' names from column A and place this in column O, right? Teachers' names from column A. So column A has teachers' names and the class right there, okay? Extract the list of class from column A and place it in column P. So I'm going to teachers' names, classes in here. Sort both of these into alphabetical order and ensure there are no duplicates. There are no duplicates, okay? So if I go to here, and I'm actually just going to highlight all of that, I'm just going to say copy. I'm going to paste that maybe here, paste, and I'm just going to drag that cell out wide so I can see all the information that I need to see there. Now, there's plenty of different ways that you could go and do this as well. I think if I was sitting in an exam and this is the way that I need to do it, I'm going to do it just by finding the teachers' names and writing them down in here and then sorting them into alphabetical order. Now, to do that, I could do that, I could use a formula. No, if I'm sitting in an exam and I'm under pressure and they just want me to do that, I'm actually just going to sit here and type them out. I'm just going to go Donna. Okay, so Donna, Carla, got Carla, James. Okay, Zoe, Cat. So I'm going to have Zoe. Then I'm going to have Cat. Okay, then I've got Catherine. Adam, May, right, so Adam, and then May, right, May, so that's it, so they're all my teachers. Now if I want them in alphabetical order, I'm just going to highlight all of those, and I'm going to go to Sort Filter, and I'm just going to go A to Z. Expand the selection, continue with the current selection, no, just continue with the current, expand the just go sort. So it sorted my teacher. Okay, Command Z. I'm going to undo that. I just want to sort from there to there. Right click, filter, sort A to Z. I want continue with the current selection. Alright, so I'll show you what I did just then so you can see. I highlighted what I wanted to sort. I went to my sort and filter. I went A to Z and I said continue with the selection. Because if it expands it, it included the teacher at the top. Now I don't want the heading teacher to be sorted. I only want the name, so I said continue with the current selection. So that's what I chose to do. So now I've got all of the teachers sorted in alphabetical order. They all appear just once, which is exactly what it says in here. Extract the lists from column A and place in column P. Sort both of these lists into alphabetical and ensure there are no duplicates. So I know there's no duplicates. They're in alphabetical order. It's all right. So now we're going to do the same with class. I think it's class. Extract the classes. Right. Okay, so the classes. So my first class here is TAP. And in fact, if we go back to the first one up here, we probably can see what all the classes are up here. But anyway, let's tap modern, ballet, ballet. It says at the top there are different classes, street, contemporary, right? So I could actually just write the 5 of those out. But let's do it properly. Let's do it the way they've asked us to do that. So tap is one. The next one down is modern. The one after that is street. Then we go contemporary. ARY. Contemporary. Okay, next one is modern. I've already got ballet. Ballet, contemporary I've got, street I've got, tap I've got, contemporary I've got, ballet, 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 tap, tap, modern, street, contemporary. So that's it. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to click there, I'm going to click there. I'm going to go to sort by filter, and I'm going to sort A to Z. I'm going to go continue with the current selection, and then I've got all of my things done in there. I don't need this column anymore. I only moved that over so I could make this one easier to see. So I'm just going to delete the whole of that. So now I think I've done that question, right? In the dance worksheet, extract a list of teachers' names in column A and place it into O. Right, I've done that. Extract a list of classes from column A and place it into P. I've done that. Sort both of these lists into alphabetical order and ensure there are no duplicates. Right, I've done that. Next, place a single formula in cell Q2 to display the list of months in this column. Do not change the contents of the cell in the worksheet. So they want me to put a formula into Q2, which is there. They want me to put a formula into there to display the list of months in this column. Do not change the contents of other cells in the worksheet. So they actually want me to get a list of months which is coming from here, okay? So what we want to do is we actually want to use a function called transpose, right? So I'm going into Q2 exactly where they're telling me to, and I'm going to go in here and type equal tran, and it comes up transpose. And what do I want to transpose? I want to transpose from B1 through to M1. So that's essentially what I want to do. Close that bracket, hit enter. And it's done it, right? So it's transposed all of those down there. January, February, March, April, May, blah, 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 blah. And if you click on each of those cells, you can see the formula is in those cells for that whole section. So I've done that. So let's have a look, make sure that's right. Place a single formula in cell Q2 to display the list of months in this column. Do not change the contents of other cells in the worksheet. So I've done it, that's it. That should be it, right? If we can go to view formulas. So I'm just going to the formula tab at the top over here, and I just want to go show formula and scoot across. Okay, so it has actually only put the formula in the top one, but it says only put in the top one. Place a single formula in cell Q2. So I've done that, so that's it. So as far as I'm concerned, that's done, that's correct. Yeah, I may need to go and drag that down and put the same formula in all of those. But I don't think so. I think I've done it correctly, right? So let's hide that show formulas. And let's go back, place a single formula in cell Q2. It doesn't say put them in all the cells. Okay, so I think that's right. In the spec find worksheet, so that's the worksheet down the bottom down here, which is that one, should be spec find. This actually is called find. This should be called spec find, this worksheet. Right, I'm just going to double click on this down here and just change this back to spec find. It changed when I saved the file name, right? But I actually want this to be spec find so that it's exactly as they're asking me. In the spec find worksheet, which is this one, yep. So in the spec find worksheet, users will select the teacher in cell B1, the class type in cell B2, and the month in cell B3, and the number of students will be displayed. So that's what will be happening in the future. In the spec find worksheet, edit cells B1 to B3 so that the data can be selected from drop-down lists, links to the lists in steps. Okay, so we've gone through here in the dance one here, and we've created a list of teachers, class, and months. And what we want to do is we actually want to set up that one, and that one to be drop-down menus, all right? So they need to be drop-down menus so that you can drop down and look up different things in different sections, right? So to put a formula into here, I could do, will I do a VLOOKUP? No, I'm going to do a data validation, right? So I'm going to, because I'm doing a drop down, I want to do a drop down. I don't want it just to be look up the data, I want to do a drop down. So I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to go to data at the top up here, and I'm going to go through and choose here, there's one here, data validation, that's this one here, and I'm going to go and get data from the list of from the dance tab down here, the dance sheet. So if I go to data validation, I click here and I click data validation, and I say allow any value. No, I want a list value, right? So I want to get a list value here, and my source, if I click here, is going to be from dance, and the first one was the teachers. So I'm just going to highlight all of that. So that's the section of data. It's kind of like a VLOOKUP, right? So I'm looking up this data in here, except what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into a drop-down menu, right? So that's what my data validation is going to do. So if I hit OK there, let's just zoom in on this so you guys can see it a bit better. If I just go to the zoom in here a bit, you'll see now there's a little arrow there. And if I click that arrow, there's the list of teachers that I could choose from. So all I've done is gone through and said, okay, go into the dance section here, get this list here, and I can choose anything from that list, right, in my find section. Okay, so that's working. So let's do the next one. And this is just a repeat of the same thing. I click on class, I go to data validation, I go to data validation here, I choose it from a list. The list that I want to choose from for class is on the dance page, and it is any one of these classes here, and I can hit OK. And so now I've got a drop down one on that box as well, okay? So I'm just going to click off this. So if I click there, there's a drop down box for the names. If I click there, there's a drop down box for the dance types, right? And I've got to do the same for month. So I go to data validation, from a list. And this is where it'll see whether that other formula worked or not. Hopefully it will, right? I'll highlight all of that, hit OK. And let's just check this one. This will be interesting. Yeah, it worked. There's all my months are all sitting there ready to go. So that sort of confirms for me that in the last question, where it said only put the code into Q2, that it still works here. It still gets all that full list of information in there. So that seems to have worked. Right, so let's have a look. In the specific B1, B2, B3, data can be selected from the drop-down list. Okay, so that's it. We've done it. So that's 4 marks. So in those 2 questions, we should have just got ourselves 10 marks. All right, so let's go down to this next one. Question 4. Select the data from the drop-down list and format it to look like this. Carla, ballet, September. Right, format it. So that kind of says to me, it needs to be bold. It needs to be centered. It needs to be looking the same way as this. In fact, the teacher one needs to be justified to the right-hand side. So let's just format that to make sure that looks right. So if I click there, and let's say I chose Carla, and then I chose Carla, ballet, September, ballet and September. I need that to be formatted in the same way. So I'm just going to highlight all of those cells. I'm going to go back to the home section here. I'm going to make it bold, and I'm going to make it centered on the page, and I'm going to make it centered there. So now that should look the same. Carla, ballet, September. Remember, I'm zoomed right in, right? So if I zoom back again to about the same size, it's going to be there. Now, one thing that you will notice is, look, this is a long box, this is a short box, and this is justified right. So you've got to make sure you do all of these things. We're going to make that a long box. This is a short box. Let's go a little bit further to there. Right, and it looks like it's got, I wonder if they want us to make this column. I don't think so. Surely that's that. But anyway, so let's just do this. Long box, short box. These ones need to be justified to the right-hand side. That looks good to me. It's just got a dotted line in there, dotted line in here. It doesn't really have borders around it. So I think that's correct like that. So I think I've done question number 4 as well, right? So set this down for the drop-down list and format it to look like this. Bold, centered, perfect in B, longer box, justified to the right. So that's what I would have done in the exam. The only thing that I might do differently is I might have put a border around the outside because that does look like a solid line border around the outside there. And we haven't got A and B. So maybe they want me to insert A and B. But I do have A and B there. No, I'm going to leave it exactly like that. I'm just going to leave it like that with a border around the outside, no borders on the inside, and see if that's appropriate. So I'm just going to hit save on that, and we'll move on to question number 5. Now, question number 5 is a big one, right? 14. So I'm just going to pause the video here. We'll come back to it and do the whole big question 14 altogether. Okay, and go. All right, so let's read this question and make sure that we get it right. Place a formula in cell B5 that uses index and match functions to display the name of students for the selected data. So if we're looking at this, we're saying there's B, there's 5, so we're going to put a formula in here that uses index and match. Okay, so we should probably look at what both of those functions are first and just make sure that you're up to date on index and match. So if we go to here, I've gone across onto the dance tab, and I'm just going to move all the way across so we can see all of our data. So the index function essentially is going to cross-reference the rows and the columns to find a number in here somewhere. Okay. So for example, let's say this is the selection. This is the section of data that we want to index. Right. We want to cross-reference the row across the top with the columns down the side. So we could do something like this, right? So I'm just going to click down here, and we can put in the formula equals index, okay, which is going to index. Now, it gives you the formula down here, row number, column, reference, all that sort of stuff, right? Now, remember, in a previous video, I said to you, if you hit this function thing, you can actually see some of the arguments, right, and the way that's going to work. So I'm just going to leave the first one, hit OK, and then leave the second one and hit OK, and then that takes us to here, right? So the first part is, what is the array? So I'm going to click in this box, and I'm going to say the array, or the information that we're going to search, is all of that information right there. Okay, now we can say which row number are we looking for. So I could say, for example, remember starting in the array, there's row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rows go across, columns go down. So I could say, let's say we want to look at row number 5, right? Contemporary, that's that row there. Or let's just put that in to start with. Let's just put 5 in as my row 5, right? And then my column number, I might choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So essentially 5, 6 should take me to the answer being 188, because that's where it cross-references down by 5 rows, across by 6 rows. So I'm going to put 6 in there as my column number, and then I hit done. And you can see it found 188. It went and looked in all of this data. It went to row number 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and column 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it got the 188 out of there. So that's what the index function does. Essentially, it cross-references rows and columns to find the information that's in the middle. Now, you can tell from this question, we're going to be cross-referencing teacher name, class, and month. Now, there's 3 things there, right? But we'll get to that in a minute. We're going to be cross-referencing those to get into this section here. Okay, so that's what the index function does. So let's just keep that in mind, that's the first thing that we want to be looking at is an index. Now the next thing we're going to look at is a match function. Okay, now a match function can match one thing with something else that's in a different column. So let's just do an example, because I think that's the best way. So let's put equals. In fact, let's start off with what do we want to match, right? So let's have a look at here, and let's just close this formula builder. Right, so let's say the months. We've got the months down here. Let's look up May. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, there's the 5th one down. Right, so let's say we had the word May in here. Okay, so we want to match this word in here with where is it in this column, right? So where would I find May in this column? So we want to use a match function. So if I click here, I'm going to put my function in here. I'm going to equals match. Right, there it is. There's match right there. And it says lookup value, lookup array, match type. All right, so this is interesting. Now we could, like I said, we could use the function section here, or we could just type it in here. Let's use the function because you're in the exam. You want to do it quickly, so let's just use the function thing. Right, the lookup value we want to use is this word here, N24. So we click there, that's our lookup value. Then we want to look up our array. Which array do we want to look up? Well, we want to look up all of those down there. And the match type, well, you remember 0 is exact and 1 is close, right? So we want an exact match. So I'm going to put a 0 in there at the end, and then I'm going to hit done. And the number 5 comes up. So it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th position in that array is the word may. So that's how a match function works. So now you know we've got a match function and we've looked at an index function. We've looked at both of those two different functions to do something, to get something to work, right? Now let's have a look at this question one more time. Place a formula in B5 that uses index and match functions to display the number of students selected. Right, so let's think about this. If we look at this column here, the months go across the top all by themselves. All right, so we could use a single match function just to match the month name to whatever is in there. So that's easy. We can get the match function, that's easy, right? So what about Carla Contemporary? We kind of need to put them together, okay? So if we go back to here, in our column A here, they're already together. And in fact, the dance type is first, and then the name of the teacher is second, right? So we need to find a way where we can join together the B2 cell, which is that one, and the B1 cell. We need to join both of those together, and it needs to be in a match function to match them to the columns or the rows in here so that then we can then cross-reference it against this. Right, so this is where it becomes a little bit more complicated. So I'm just going to kind of pencil it out down here what I want to happen. Right, so the first thing I'm going to pencil out down here, I'm going to start with the easiest thing, which I think is just going to be to match this word here with the array of months across the top. I think that's the easiest thing to do. So I'm going to write my formula here. I'm just going to say equals match. I'm click match here. I'm going to click on this function thing here. Now my lookup value, which is really easy, is going to be B3. My lookup array, I'm going to change over to my dance tab, and I'm going to say my array is the names of the months across the top there, and my match type has to be an exact match. So I'm going to put a 0 in there, so it has to be an identical match, and I'm going to hit done. Okay, now September, it says is number 9. If I go over here, I could see it's the 9th month across there, and we know September's the 9th month. So that match function is actually correct. If I go to view my formulas, I can just go to formula, show formula, and it shows me my match function that was in there, and I'm very pleased with that, right? So that seems to be working. I'm just going to expand that out so I can have a look at it. So that's my first match function. Now let's talk about my second match function. The second match function I want to do, I'm just going to pencil it out. In fact, I might put that above this, because in the actual order to do things, you want to be looking, well, it doesn't really matter, but let's just do it this way. We want to look at Carla and Contemporary, right? Now, if I look at dance, this is the column I want to look at, which is A, which is 2 to A20, A2 to A20. It has the dance type first, then it has a space, then it has the dance teacher. So if I'm going to do a match function, I need to somehow join those two together. And we can do that with a simple AND symbol. So let's try and do a match on that first. Before we go ahead and look at the index and cross-referencing, let's just try and do the match on that first. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to say equals match. Okay, so I've got my match function working here. And my lookup value, well, my first lookup value, remember the dance comes first. So it has to be B2 is my lookup value. And my lookup array is going to be everything, but I don't just want B2. I want B2 and I want B1, and I want to put a space in there somehow as well, right? So there needs to be a way to do that. So what I can do is in this section right here, I can actually write down the words I'm saying. I want it to be B2 and I want there to be a space. So I'm going to be 2 inverted commas with a space in between. And, whoops, not that one. And I want it to be B1. So now I've got, have a look here, I've got the first word will be contemporary, then there'll be a space, and then we'll get the name of the teacher. So that's the actual value that I'm looking up in there, all right? So that's pretty important. That little combination there is the combination I'm looking up. Now if I click on my lookup array, this is pretty easy. We go to dance and we're looking up from there to there. So dance A2 to A20, and my match type has to be exactly the same. So I put a 0 and I hit done, and there you can see my formula. Now if I turn off the show formulas, it shows number 7. So if I go back here just to check that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there is Carla, contemporary Carla. So that works. So I've got 2 functions there. I'm going to go back and show my formulas. I've got 2 formula there that actually work, and they're working really well. So there's the match one there, and then there's the match one there. Now, this is where I need to index that one and that one to find inside this array in here. Okay, so this whole section in there, I want to index to find what's in there. So let's go back to my thing here, and I'm going to go to just another box to test out my formula, to test out my theory. I'm going to say equals index, excuse me. Right, what is the array that I want to look up? Well, that's easy. I'm going to click in the array box. I'm going to go to dance. That's the array that I want to look up. All right, so that's pretty easy. Now I want to go to my row number. Remembering, rows go down the side, all right? So if I want to go to my rows, remember to find the row, what I was looking at was this one here, which is dance teacher and dance style. So if I go to here, what I really want to do in here, don't have that specified, what I really want to do in there is I actually want this section of code right here. So I'm just going to move this over a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. I'm going to copy that section of code out exactly if I can, right? I know it's wanting me to click and do things in here. I'm just going to delete that and just see if I can grab that row. I don't think I can. It's not letting me. All right, so let's just hit escape out. Go back to here. I just want to expand that right out. There we go, so I can read both of the formula there. Okay, so let's try this again. In this section here, do I do it there? No, let's do it. Okay, let's do it here. In this section here, I want to do equals index. Okay, so there's my index. No, in fact, let's not do it here. Let's do it in the exact spot where it should be, which is going to be the B5. That's where they asked us to do it, so let's do it there. Okay, equals index. Good. Go to my functions. Got it there. Okay, here it is. My array is going to be this whole array here. So I want that to be my array. My row number now has to be this section of code. So I need to write that exactly in there. So I'm clicking in there. I don't need the equals sign because I've already started the formula going. I just need to copy that line. So match brackets B2 and inverted commas space, close the inverted comma, and B1, and I want to get that from, so I've got to go comma, the dance tab down the bottom, exclamation mark, A2, colon, A20, comma, 0, close that bracket. So that's the row number done. I've done the exact row that I want to get to. That was it right there. I've put that row number in there. Now I want to put my column name in. So I'm going to click here. Excuse me. And my column name needs to be this match statement down here. So I do it again. Match in bracket B3, comma, from the dance tab, exclamation, B1, colon, M1, comma, the exact value, close that bracket, and then I should be able to just go done, and my formula should be correct. Done. Okay, so it looks like it's done. I didn't get an error, I didn't get any strange things. I just clicked done. Remember, I'm still viewing the formula, so I'm going to change it from formula to there, and it gives me the value 102. So let's go and see if that's right. Carla Contemporary September. remembering it should be Contemporary Carla, September. So let's go to dance. Contemporary Carla is there. And if I scroll across to September, there it is right there, 102. Remember, I always say to you, do your testing during the exam to make sure you're showing that it's exactly working. So that exactly works. Now let's test another number just to make sure. Let's do Street Donna June, right? So Street Donna June should be 267. So let's go back and test that. So we're going to go to here. We're going to change this to Donna. We're going to change this to Street, and we're going to change this to June, and we got 267. So our formula has worked in there. It seems to be going really well. I'm really pleased with that. I'm actually going to change this back to Carla Ballet September. Was it Ballet? Ballet September. Because I think that's what it was in the exam. Yeah, Carla Ballet September. So I've changed it back to that to make sure that we're still in line with what the exam paper is at the moment, right? Now, as far as I can see, I've finished question 5. Place a formula in B cell that uses index and match function to display the number of students for the selected data. So I've actually done that. That all works. There's one more thing that I need to do. I need to go into here and delete these two formula in here. I've used them to help me to set up and use my brain to work through the problem solve the issue, but I don't want to leave them by accident on the exam paper. So I'm just going to get rid of those, and I'm going to make sure that I save. So I hit save on my file, and it should be perfectly good. Right, let's move on. There's 14 marks, right? So it's a big one. I know you had to think that one through, but it's a good one. I think we got it right. Okay, question 6. Use the spreadsheet to find the number of students for the following extracts. For each extract, save your spreadsheet with the question number followed by your centre number, candidate number. For example, 6A, then there'll be 6B, then there'll be 6C. So let's do exactly that. This is a really easy one. This will get us 3 marks. And essentially, this is what I just said to you, where you need to test it, right? So let's do the first one. Ballet with Carla in September. Well, we've got that. Carla Ballet September, 197, and it says it wants me to save it as 6A. So I'm going to say File, Save As. And then when this comes up, I'm going to change this from Find. I'm going to change that to 6A. So that's what it wants me to be, 6A. I'm making sure I'm saving into the same folder where the Find version was. Now, one of the things I noticed here, actually I've just noticed as I'm doing it, is my Find version is .csv, so it's a comma separated file. I actually want to save that as an Excel file too. Because I opened it as a comma separated file, it seems to have saved it that way. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to Excel Workbook, and I'm just going to write that in as Find in there, and I'm going to hit Save in there once first, right? So I know that I've actually got my Excel Workbook in there as well. There's no issue in having extra files in here. What's important is that you don't miss a file out, okay? So the examiners are not going to take marks off because you've got extra files. They just want to make sure you have the right files, okay? So in here, I'm going to say File, Save As. I'm going to go back to here. This is what I was saying. I'm just going to go 6A. Now, you need to really be careful that you're saving all the time and that you're saving the right documents in the right way. So for 6A, hit Save, and we had Carla Ballet September. Right, so the next one is Street James November. So let's go to here. Change this to James. Change this to Street. And change September into November. Okay, we've got 7:32. We could go back and check that on the tabs if we want. James Street November. James Street November, 7:32. So I can see it is working. Now it wants me to save it as a 6B, so I go File, Save As. I do the same thing, just change the A to a B, save a 6B, hit Save. That's done, so that's 2 marks. Tap Adam June, right? So the same thing, tap Adam June. There's Adam. There's tap, and there is June. There we go. I would go and check that again. File, Save As, and this one's going to be 6C. 6C, save. Okay, so that, just by testing it, just by running a few little tests there, that's given me 3 extra marks, which is just great. You know, I want to make sure that that's correct. Right, so in that section just then, we should have got 10 marks, 1 makes it 11 marks, plus 14 more. That takes us to 25 marks, plus 3 more is 28. So we're doing all right. We've got 28 marks so far, and we've probably got 15 from the start. So what's that? 38, 43 marks so far. We're going okay. Let's go down to question number 7. Now it looks like we've still got questions 7 and 8 could be spreadsheet, and then we're going to move on to sound and video down below, right? So let's get on to question number 7. Add a new worksheet called chart to your workbook. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to add a new sheet down the bottom. I'm going to call it chart. Hit chart, hit enter. I'm actually going to drag that sheet and put it across behind dance so they're in the order that I've been working on so that I can do that. Okay, copy cells A1 to M20 and P1 to P6 from your dance worksheet into the same cells on your chart worksheet. Into the same cells. Okay, A1 to M20. A1 to M20. Let's go to dance. A1, which is there, through to M20, which is there. So it's copying the whole main section without the OP and all that sort of stuff, right? So edit, copy, go to chart, paste, edit, paste. So I've done the first section. I've copied it exactly. And P1 to P6 from your dance worksheet. P1, yep, to P6, which is there from my dance worksheet, right? So it's just getting the classes. So I'm going to say edit, copy, and I'm going to put it in exactly the same spot, P1, paste, to P6. So I've done that exactly. So I've followed those 2 steps exactly to the same cells in your chart worksheet. Okay. Now it says in your chart worksheet, insert a new column in between A and B. All right, so let's go and do that first. In fact, I'm going to just move this over a little bit so I can see what's going on and so that I can read the question at the same time. So we can kind of do both things at the same time. So insert a new column between A and B. Right, so I'm going to click on B. I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to say insert. So that's it, I've inserted a new column in there. In fact, it becomes the new B. Now I'm just going to drag this across, so I've got a bit of space and I'm going to move it away from A so that we can see what's going on. So I've got a new column in here called B, right? So that's what it says. In cell B2, which is going to be there, place a replicatable formula to extract only the type of class from column A. Replicate this formula down to row 20. Right, so I've got to have something in here to get out all of the types of class. Now, there's a couple of ways you could do this. I could actually, let me show you this way first, right? So if we go to here, we want to get out the first word, right? So I could potentially write this. Tap, modern, street, contemporary, and then we've got modern ballet. Okay, so what I've done, I've actually taken out the first word of all of those. Now if I click there and highlight down to there, and then if I go up here to this one called flash fill, that should get the first word out of all of these columns and fill them up in there. So if I just do that, there you go, that actually worked. That did that, and you'll notice it worked. But, and that's one way to do it, right? But this actually says a formula, right? So it wants me to do it with a formula. So that's not exactly what I want to do. So I'm just going to get that and I'm going to delete that. I'm just showing you that flash fill is one way that you could actually fill up those things, but it's not a formula. So what we actually want to do is we would like to get the first word out. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We could run a find function in here, and the find function would find the space, because all of these have a space. Because the type of dance is a different length, they all end with a space. Sort of the space is the common thing. So let's say down here I did a find function, right? So I could go in here and I could say equals find, and then I'm going to hit my little functions tab here, and it's probably over here, here we go, and it's going to say to me, what is it that you want to find, right? Well, actually, what I want to find is a space. So if I click in here, normally up here, what I would do is I would do inverted commas with a space in between. But because we're doing it in the formula builder, I'm just going to do it this way. I'm just going to go space. So if you find a space, within which text? Oh, look, you can see there, it drew the two inverted commas with a space in between it. Within which text? Well, the text I want to do it in is this one, A2. So find a space within A2 to start number. Now start number, let me think about this. How many characters do I want to start with? Specify the characters at which to start your search. I want to start with the first character. I want to start with character number 1. So let's do that. And let's hit enter and see what happens on that. Okay, and that says to me 4. So what that's actually saying is the space in this one here, I'll just zoom in so you guys can see it. The space in this cell here, which is A2, because that's where I said to look, A2, is at position number 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is the space. Okay, so if I did that same formula for all of these, it should say something different. So modern 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it should be at 6. So let's say I did that on A3. So that's one column down in the modern. And I hit enter. The answer should be 6 or 7. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's the 7th is actually the space. So that's how we do a find feature to find the space, right? Now, what do I want to get before the space? I want to get everything to the left-hand side of the space. So I actually want to collect the information which is on the left-hand side of the space. That's kind of what it's asking me to do. It says in cell B2, place a replicatable formula to extract only the type of the class, right? And so the class is on the left-hand side of the space. So I know if I do a find function, I can find the space. So how do I find everything before the space? All right, and so what I do is I actually use a function called left, right? So it's the left of whatever it is that I say. So I'll explain it as I go along. So I'm going to put equals left. So I want to get everything on the left-hand side. And now you can kind of understand what I'm saying. I want to get everything on the left-hand side of the space. Okay, so that's why I wanted to find out the space where the space was first. So if I go left bracket, and I could over here do the formula button over here as well. I suppose we can do that. That's pretty easy. I click on the text. We want that cell there. So we're looking at the left of the A2 cell. And then when we come here to num character, it's saying what number character do you want to find everything beforehand? Now, if I put, in this case, if I put the number 4 in there, right, I know that I'm going to get TAP space, like I'll get everything before that, right? So left-hand side of the 4th character. Problem is, I can't go down and put that, that's not replicatable all the way down to have a 4 in there. I need it to find the space by itself, all right? So I'm going to actually delete that 4 in there, and I'm going to put the formula in that we had down here, which was our find formula, okay? Because then that's obviously going to find the space, and then I want everything before the space, right? So let's put in here, find, bracket, inverted commas, and put a space in there. So I want you to find a space, and I want you to find that space in A2. So we're going to find a space in here. Now, here's the little problem. I don't just want it to count, and I don't want it to include the space. I want it to go back and get everything before the space, so not including the space. So I actually need to put in here -1. So in theory, that would say it would find 4, and then I take 1 off and say everything from 3 back to the very start, or from 3 back to the leftmost character. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Yep. Right. Let's see. Close that bracket. Hit enter, and that's got the word tap for me. So I'll just explain that one more time. This little formula here. First thing we did is we did a find to find the space. So we found the space after the letter P. There's a space, right? Now we don't want to include that space, so by putting the -1 in here, we're going back to include only the letters. Right, now all the letters we're looking for is in the A2 cell, which is this one here, A2 cell, and we're looking for everything on the left-hand side of the space, essentially. That's the way it works, right? So it found the word tap. Now, if I drag that down there, I'm saying find everything to the left-hand side of all of the spaces. And straight away, it gives us all of the actual dance types because there's always a space after the dance types. So that was a little trick. And you'll notice in the last two questions, what I've done is I've written a little bit of code first, then worked out the bigger, longer term piece of code, and then I have to go through and delete this piece of code here. I also want to make sure that I do a save at this stage. Right now, I'm just going to look at my question here, and it says save this as chart underscore. This is in question 8, but it does say chart underscore. So I'm actually going to save that now so I don't mess anything up. So I'm just going to go File, Save As. I go to here, and I'm not going to call it 6C. I'm going to call it chart underscore, and then my name and number and those things. So now I've got a working version to go with. Now I've only done up to there at this stage. That's all I've done is that section there. Oh no, replicate this formula to row 20. So I've actually done that whole question. I replicated it all the way down to row 20. Okay. So the next one, copy cells C1 to N1 into cells R1 to AC1. So C1 to N1. So I'm assuming I go from C1, which would be there, C1, all the way through to N1. So let's go across. I'm going to zoom back a bit so I can see it a bit better now. So C1 to N1. So in other words, copy cells from C1 to N1 into R1 to AC1. So I'm copying the months. I'm going to right click and just say copy. And then it's saying put them into R1 to AC1. So I'm actually have to scroll across here, and to get to those ones that they're talking about, which is R1 to AC1, I've got to go across to R, there it is there, and I've got to press Command V or Control V if you're on a PC, and I've pasted them in, and we can check that that's right because I've put it in R1 and it goes across to AC1, which is exactly what it says to do. So I've done that section there as well. I've copied and pasted that. Now it says, place in R2 a replicatable formula to display the total number of students studying this class in this month. Replicate this formula for all the classes of the month. So it's saying how many students do the classes in the month. So that's what we're going to be looking for here. All right, so let's go over here. Let's have a look at this. We've got our replicatable formula, the type of class. This one, a replicatable formula telling us how many students do, what is it again? Formula displays the total number of students studying this class in the month. So how many students studying the class in the month? So in other words, ballet, how many students are studying that in January? Contemporary, how many students are studying that in January? Modern, how many students are studying that in January? So we need to actually work out, there's tap, modern, street, contemporary, modern, ballet, contemporary. So it has to actually add up any of these that actually say modern. We need to add all them up, work out how many there are in January, and we need to add them into modern there. So this is actually going to be another whole formula that we're going to put in here. All right, let's get started on how do I add up different things with different dance styles for each month. How do we do that? Okay, so what I want to do is I would like to go into this first cell here, which is ballet in January. And what I'm going to say is if out of this column it is ballet, then I want to add those numbers together, right? Now, I actually said it in English just then. I said if these ones are ballet, then I want to add them together. So I know that what I actually want to do here in this cell here is I actually want to do some sort of if statement. But what is it I want to do? Well, if they're ballet, I want to add them together. So there's actually a function called SUMIF, which means add them up if something or other happens, right? So I'm going to go to here, I'm going to go to this first cell here, and I'm going to say, if they're ballet and they're in January, then add up the score in here. So let's try and do this. Let's write a little function here. It goes SUMIF, right? And you can see it comes up, SUMIF comes up there, so I click SUMIF, and it gives me my section in here. So my range or my reference has to be, what is the range I'm looking from? Well, what I'm looking from is all of these, right? So from all of those ones there, that's my range. Now my criteria, as in what am I looking for within that range, or what I'm looking for is actually whatever's there, ballet, right? And the sum range reference is going to have to refer to, well, it's in January, isn't it? So I'm going to go to here and I'm going to say, okay, in, I suppose I'm going to say it's in the whole of January down there, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say, if my range in here has this word in it from Q2, if my word ballet is in there somewhere, then add up the numbers from here that coincide with that, all right? So let's just see if that works. Let's hit done there, and I get the number 428. Now, what I could do, if I really wanted to, is just to check that, is go down and work it out, right? So 54 and 220 takes me 274, plus 91 takes me 265, roughly, 265. Plus 60 is going to be 328, something like that. 428. Did I count that up wrong? 428. So that seems to have worked. Okay, so that seems like it worked. Now you could actually go through and take a bit more time and add it up more carefully, but I just did that pretty quickly, mental maths, right? So anyway, so now what I want to do is I want to do all of January for all of these ones, and I want to do all of the months of the year, like here. Now, my first gut instinct would be grab that and drag it all the way across, and then that should work. Yeah, that'd be great. And then grab that and drag it all the way down, and that would be great. However, there's some things that I don't want to change, right? So I don't want this column here, this B column here. I want that to stay the same, so that should stay the same. But I also want the reference point for whichever column it is to go from there. So I just want to click on here and show the function. Let's go to formulas, show the formula, all right? So if I go to here, I actually want that Q2. I don't mind if the Q changes. No, I want the Q to stay where it is, but I don't want this to change, right? I want this to, so the best thing to, I think, is probably to show you an example of what I mean, right? So if I scroll down here, you'll see this has changed from Q2 to Q3. This has changed to Q4. This is Q5, Q6, which is fantastic. It's getting the names from there, right? However, the formula here is C2 to C20, but this has now gone to C3 to C21. And if I go back over here, that means it's now looking from C3 there down to C21 down here. It's actually skipped that top cell. It's actually moved the cells down, because as I've gone down, it's moved down with it. And I don't want that to happen. I want that to stay, so it's always C2 and C20. I need it to always be that. Now, there's several things you can do. You could go in here and you could go through and change that to C2, C20. You could change that all the way down if you wanted to. I don't want to do that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to say that I want them to stay constant. I want the C2 to always be C2, and I want the C20 to always be C20. Now, it doesn't always have to be C, because I want it to move to D, and I want it to move to E, and I want it to move to F. So I just want the 2 to 20 to be constant all the way down. So what I do is I go in between the C2 and I put a $sign in. Right? And if I put that $sign in, that says to me, keep everything after the $sign, or what's directly after the $sign, keep it constant. So the $sign makes the 2 constant. Now if I go to here and I put a $sign in here as well, that means I'm going to keep the 20 constant. So this could change to D2, E2, F2, so on and so forth, but the 2 is remaining constant. And the $sign means the 20 is going to remain constant. So now if I pull this down here, oops, don't do that, escape. Now if I pull this down here, I'm just going to hit an enter at the end of that. Oh, did it change? It didn't change. Sorry, I've got to go back and put that in. $sign in there and $sign in there. And then go to the end and hit enter. Right, Now if I pull that down and I drag that all the way down to here, you'll notice that it's now C2, C20, C2, C20, C2, C20. So it's actually stayed constant all the way down, which is really fantastic. It's really great, right? Now, what else do I need to make constant? Let's see. Let's have a look at our formula. Let's just have a look at our results. So our results look all right. I think there's one more that I need to make constant in here. Let's have a look. If I go across to there. Okay, so here's my problem now, right? If I move acrossward with my drag, so I drag across here. I'm just going to make this a bit bigger so you guys can see it. The D2 and the D20 have stayed constant, but now it's looking at R2. But I don't want it to look at R2 because R2 is this formula in here. I want that to stay Q2. So even though I've moved into the S column, I don't want it to start looking at R2 because that means if I drag it again, this one is going to start looking at S2. Well, I don't want that, right? So in actual fact, I want to undo that, I want to undo that, and I want to undo that. And I actually want to make this one in here. In fact, I'm going to undo one more time to get rid of all of those ones. I need the Q to stay constant, Q2. So I'm actually going to put a $ in here. And in this case, I'm putting the $ in front of the Q because I want it to stay in this column, in this Q column. I don't want the column to change. I want it to stay consistently Q2. So now if I drag across, you'll notice, oops, come on, oh, wait a minute, finish that, hit enter. Now if I drag across that, you'll notice it's still looking at Q2, which is the word ballet. It's changed it to a D instead of a C, so that we're actually looking in the next column. We're looking in February, but it's kept all the other things the same. So by putting that $ in between before the Q and the $ in between after the C and after this C, I've actually made it work. So let's just hide this formula for a second. And let's go and have a look. So this is saying in February, there are no people doing ballet. So I'm not sure that that's right. But let's just have a look. Let's just click on that. I'm just going to delete that one. I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to grab all of that now that I've made the changes. I'm going to drag all the way across and all the way down. Let's drag all the way across first. And let's drag all the way down here. So there's something definitely wrong here. See how we got zeros? So that means I made a mistake, so we have to go back and fix it. And that's good. I mean, problem solving is important, right? So let's just go Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. So there's something else not quite right in here. So I want to sum if B2 to B20, which is my first column here, B2 to B20, has the words of, let's see, has the words of $Q2, which is that, ballet, and I want to look from C2 to C20. So I want to look from C2 to C20. So that's correct for that first one, and that looks like it's right. Now, if I go across one here, I'm getting a 0. So let's have a look at the function here. If C2 to C20, C2 to C20, now I don't want that. I actually want it to be D2 to D20. So I actually, no I don't. I need that to be constant as well. That's saying that the names of the words here have moved as well. So I actually need them to be constant as well. So if I go back to here, that's my little problem solving right there. I go to here. I need that to be $B2 to $B20. So now if I drag that across, oops, don't do that. $B2 to $, not that. $B20, there we go. Hit enter. Okay, now if I drag that across, it should be finding the right number. There we go. That's good. And then if I drag that down, perfect. Now, I'll explain one more time what happened just then. What I had was, as I was dragging across, it was moving from column B to column C to column D to column E. So I had to put a $ in here so that it was constant in here. So that the B2, we stayed in this column here. Now we also put a $ in, so we stayed in the Q column here. That's the Q1 there. and we put a dollar sign in here and here, so we stayed in the range between 2 and 20, and we didn't go down to rows 3 and 4 and 5 and keep running down lower. We stayed within that right range. So by putting the dollar sign in, you're saying staying consistent within the range that you want to stay in. And so therefore, we will have finished that section there. I think that finishes that question actually. Place replicatable for students are studying this class. Replicate the formula. Okay, so we've done it, right? So we actually did that. Now, we also tested it as we went along, right? So I dragged it out, make sure it worked, dragged it down, make sure it worked, and it all is consistent. Now, if you want to test it, if you want to actually test and see if that's correct, which I suggest you do, you choose something. So let's choose, say, September ballet, right? So we want to choose September ballet, and it should be 606. So we go to September, and we find anyone who's doing ballet. So there's the first one in September, 197. 197 plus 226, what's that? That's 423. 423, 542. 542 plus 64 is 606. So if we go over here and check, 606. So just by doing a little bit of mental maths, or even getting a pen and paper out and working it out, you're just confirming that the formula you've put in is correct. And you really need to do that. You really need to make sure, because especially this one's worth 16 marks, right? So you need to make sure that you're doing that correctly. Right, and then we come to the last question, question 8. Use your chart worksheet to create and fully label an appropriate chart to compare the number of students for each type of class for each month. Okay, so we're going to compare the number of students for the types of classes. So these are the different classes, these are the different months, so we're going to compare them. And it says it wants us to make a chart. So if I'm saying it wants us, use your chart to label an appropriate chart. So I think it wants us to make a graph, right? So I think it wants to actually graph that section there. So if I go to here and I go to, let's see, which one is it? Insert here. Let's insert a graph. So I can choose one of these graphs in here. And I probably would highlight this whole section here. So it's got my months, it's got my classes, it's got my days. How am I going to want to compare? What sort of graph does it say? Use your chart worksheet. Am I on my chart worksheet? Yep. To create a fully labelled and appropriate chart to compare the number of students for each type for each month. Now, because we're doing time, whenever you're talking about time in terms of making a graph, normally you look at time using a line graph. So I would actually probably consider making a line graph here. I've highlighted it so it's got the right headings. I've highlighted this side so it's got the right class groups. I've highlighted all of my numbers, so I'm going to go to my graphing here, and I would like, I don't know, this graph here, it doesn't really matter, I suppose. I'm going to choose this graph, and there it is. So I've got a graph. Okay, use your chart, number of students each on there, and then it says, save your file as a spreadsheet with chart underscore, which I've already done that, so I'm just going to go File, Save, and I think that's it. I've got a chart here. My chart has the number of students, it has the months across the bottom, it has a key here which tells me which type of student. Maybe the only thing I would change is the chart title. I might click on the chart title and say something like students per month per class. Per month per class type. Students per month per class type, right? So I think that's maybe an appropriate title. Does it say I have to put any? Use your chart worksheet to create a fully labelled and appropriate chart to compare your number of students. Okay, so that's it. Students per month per class type. There's my graph. Now, you might even want to make that a little bit bigger so the examiner can read it. Right? Just pull it out. There we go. So that's it. That's all you need to do for that question. So in fact, I think that is it for the spreadsheet section. And now we're going to move on to the video editing. So I'm just going to save all of this, close out of this, move to my video editor, and we'll start the next section. We're going to move on to the section of the video that works on the videos, right? Works on making the video editing. This is a little bit interesting because I'm actually recording my screen as I'm going to be editing video software. So it may go slow for certain sections. If it does that, I'm just going to pause the video, wait till the software is open and ready to go, and then continue the video from there. It's not that I'm cutting to cut anything out. It's that I'm pausing the video because my computer's recording while I'm trying to edit video, which obviously slows everything down, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is just talk about this section here. Donna's Dance School wishes to create a number of short video clips showing dance styles around the world. You will create one of these clips to show traditional Balinese Barongket dance. The original video clip was recorded by GBR Video and the audio was recorded by KMV Audio. Open the file spec dance mp4 in your video editing software. Now what's really important here is this statement, in your video editing software. A lot of the students at our school have been using video editing software which actually has to connect to the internet for it to work properly. Now you can't do that because you're in an exam and you're not allowed to have that software. So you must have software that's standalone, works on your computer without internet access, and that can be a little bit of a problem. So make sure that you got something decent. You can download lots of little video editors that are free, they're cheap, or they give you a 30-day trial or something like that, which is perfect for the exam. You don't need to connect to the internet, you just use them for 30 days, right? Ideally, you would have some good quality software on your machines that you don't need to do that. If you're a Mac person, then you're automatically going to have iMovie, and I joke with the kids how much better Macs are than PCs for this type of thing because you automatically have, iMovie, and you already automatically have GarageBand and all that stuff sort of comes with your Mac, right? But the reality is you can download software for either Mac or PC and they'll both work the same. Now, I'm not going to use iMovie for this video editing. iMovie is great. When you import your video, it automatically comes in at 16 to 9 ratio of video, so it's already set up correctly and those sorts of things. But the idea of this question is to test you and push you to change settings and to see that you know how to change settings. So it says open the spec dance MP4 in your video editing software. The aspect ratio must be set to 16.9. Remove the end of the clip so that it plays for 7 seconds. Remove the end of the clip so it plays for 7 seconds. Save your video in MP4 format with a resolution 1024 by 576. The file name must be, and it's dance underscore, then center number, candidate number, center number, candidate number, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to use Premiere Pro. Now the reason I'm using Premiere Pro here is that it's like the industry standard on PC and Mac, so it kind of covers both platforms for the purpose of doing this video. Like I said, we could do it in iMovie really easily. Just dump the movie in, cut it down to 7 seconds, save it, make sure that the resolution's correct, and then we'd have no issue, right? But I think it's really important that you see how to edit the video and how to change these things like the resolution to make sure that you're saving your video the right way. Okay, as you can see, Premiere Pro's taking over. It's just starting to open now. Okay, so here we are. We've got into Premiere Pro and it's starting here. And I'm just going to click New Project at the top left-hand corner. When I click New Project, it gives me a couple of things. Up here in the top left-hand corner, up here, it says Project Name. And here it says Project Sequence. And you can see I've already got some video clips here because I've already tested this once to make sure it was working. But I'm going to show you exactly what I do. So in the top left-hand corner, I'm going to put Dance 2 underscore 1234 underscore 7777. So that's in theory my file name exactly the way they've asked me to do it. I'm also going to change my sequence name to the same thing over there as well, and I'm going to hit create. Now because I've already done it, it's going to say, wait a minute, you've already done this, you want to replace, right? But I'm just going to say replace, right? So here we go. I've got this blank sequence, blank everything ready to go. And you can see at the top here I've got import, export and edits. Right now sometimes you can go into here into export and do some presets, right? But I don't want to do that yet. I actually just want to import my first video clip first. So I'm just going to go and grab my first video. I'm just going to go file, let's just go import, or in fact I'll go, let's import in here. There's lots of different ways you can do this, right? So my first video import clip is on my desktop, and it's in the Specimen Papers folder, and it's the Specimen Paper. So this is, you can see all my Excel files. This is where I've been saving everything. So it is Spec Dance. That's the first one we need to get. And I can just check that by just going back to my video here, and it says Spec Dance MP4. Yep, that's correct. So here we go, Spec Dance MP4 import. So I've imported it down here. Now, it says drop media here to create sequence. But before I do that, I just want to go to my export settings, and I just want to change a few things in my export settings. And the one that I want to change here is this custom setup. Now, when you first go into it, it's going to be something like full HD 1920 by 1080, or it's going to be HD 1280 by 720. But I don't want that. What the Cambridge have asked me to do, go back to here, is have 1024 by 576. So I'm going to go here, and I'm actually going to go down to custom. And then what I need to do is I need to actually drag that across to be 1024, right? And if I do that, 1024, come on, there we go, 1024, that automatically changed to 576. So I now actually know that that aspect ratio, that resolution is exactly what Cambridge asked me to have it as. So I've made sure I've done that first, right? So now I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to grab this clip, and I'm just going to dump it over here. And when I do that, I can see that the clip, by looking in the right-hand top corner here, it's 8.08 seconds long. That's how long it is. But they said I had to edit the clip so it was exactly 7 seconds. I had to edit from this end. Now, as with everything, there's lots of ways to do this. You can numerically put in numbers and delete and scrub back and all that sort of stuff. I'm actually just going to click here and scrub back this way, and I'm going down to exactly 7 seconds. Now, I can check that by looking up over here. It says exactly 7 seconds. I've scratched back to where I need to. It said remove from the end, so I've done that. I've removed that from the end, and I'm going to export my file. So I hit export. Now, what you would normally do is you go into your location here, and you're going to choose where you export yours to. Now, I tried to do that before, and it slowed my computer down ridiculously. So I'm just going to export it exactly where it is. I'm not going to do anything, and I can change it, and then we'll try and do that again in just a minute. Now, one of the things, look, I've gone and had a look here, and as I'm about to export, it says 1280 by 720. So it's actually gone back, it's reverted back. Now, I don't want that, right? So I need to go in here and make sure that it is custom. It's done that because I've dropped the video in, and that's probably the resolution of the video. So I just need to make sure I go to custom and make sure that I get that exact size. And this is what I've been saying through all of the tutorial videos I've been showing you guys, is make sure you check your work. Make sure that everything is exactly where it should be. 1024 by 576. Now I can check that down there, and I can see that that's correct. And now I can hit export, right? So I'm going to go bang, export, and it's exported that. And look, that was pretty quick, and it's told me where it's exported it to, right? So my video is exported nicely. Let's hide out of this. And now I know, because I know how this works, that if I go into my hard drive, if I go into users, Nick May, documents, go down and find the Adobe section, there it is there right at the top, and there's my video right there. Dance 2 123 777, and it's an MP4 format, which is exactly what they asked for, and I'm actually going to copy that into my folder ready for to be handed over as part of my assessment, right? So I just copy that from there to there, replace, because I did it before, and there we go. That's the first part of my video done. I've saved it in MP4 format. I've saved it in the right file. It's 7 seconds long, and the resolution's correct. So that's it. That's my first 3 marks, and I'm going to move on to the next question. Now, the next question says, take a still image of the first frame of the clip. Save it with the file name Dance1 in the format suitable for importing into video editing software. Take a still image of the last frame of the clip, save it in a file, blah, blah, blah. Right, so let's go back to my video editor, back here. And so what I want to do is make sure that this is right at the very start. So I'm right in my first frame. So that's my first frame right there. Now, what I want to do is I actually want to export that right there. Now, there's quite often lots of different sections here where you can go and say, take a photo and do all that sort of stuff. There is one which is, that's video, I don't want that. Now, here's the issue where I know the shortcuts. I know the shortcut here is Shift E, which is export frame, right? So you would have to find that, and this is where it's really important that you know your own software package. On me, I know that Shift E is what it is in here to export it, but let me think. There must be somewhere up in here to say take a still frame and export it. Sequence, here we go. Somewhere here in sequences there will be take a still shot and export a still shot. Okay, so I'm not going to spend time going through all of this. Like I said, I know that it's Shift E to do this, so I'm just going to do it the way that I know, Shift E, which has a still frame. Now, it says, what are you going to call it? Now, I'm just going to go back to my thing here, and it says save it with the file name dance1 in a format suitable for video editing. Okay, so I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to call it dance1. And it's saving it as DPX. Now, I don't know if that's a format I like. I know I like JPEG. I know I like PNGs. It's small file size. JPEGs and PNGs are both compressed, but I'm just going to use JPEG because I know JPEG. I'm also going to change the path. I'm just going to hit Browse, and I'm going to change this path to where I know that I want to save it, which is on my desktop. Nick May, desktop, into that specimen paper here. That's where I want it. I want it in there. It's called Dance1, and I'm going to hit OK. So now I've done it. I've exported that picture. Now I want to go to the very last frame that there's actually a frame on, which looks like it's right there. That looks like the very, very last frame for me. It's right on 7 seconds, so that looks like it's correct. I hit Shift E to export as well. I call this one Dance2, saving as a JPEG. It's saving into the same position that I want it to, and I hit OK. So now I'm just going to hide Premiere Pro for a second. I'm going to go into my specimen paper, and I should have 2 JPEGs there. I do. I've got one there, which is that, and I've got one there, which is that. Okay, so it looks like I've done that correctly, which means, save it with the file name Dance3 in a formable server. Okay, so it only says I want Dance1 and Dance3. So this is where you always check your work. So I'm just going to go and then rename that one to Dance3. Okay, so now I've got Dance1 and Dance3. So that's it for question number 9 and question number 10. Right, let's go down and have a look at question number 11. Use the file saves from 9 and 10 to create a video clip to match this storyboard. Okay, so the first thing that the question asks you to do is use the saved files from steps 9 and 10, which are the 2 still images. It says all text should be displayed in a consistent sans serif font. So we've talked about sans serif, meaning that it doesn't have little hooks and loops on the writing. It doesn't have serifs. So I've got to use a font that's a sans serif font. Do not use transitions unless instructed to do so. And then it tells you pretty much what to do. So I'm going to create a new project right here. So I just hit new project, and it comes in here. And I'll actually want to use the pictures. So there's that JPEG 1 and there's that JPEG 3. So I might click on JPEG 1. I'm just going to hit create. Well, I need to create a name in here. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to put as my name. I look down through my files and it says, how do I save the file? It says save it as, export your video as Baron-Ket, right? So it says BARONG capital KET underscore then my number 123/4/_7777. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did in the previous video. I'm just going to copy that. I'm just going to copy that project name there, and I'm actually going to put that into my sequence in here as well, just to make sure that I've got everything exactly right. I hit create. And here we go, right? So here's my new sequence that started, and it's actually already put that, because I've selected that dance 1, it's put that in as the first thing. Now, if I go down and read the original question from the examiners, it says, at time stamp 0 seconds, background image should be dance 1. So I've actually already put that in, dance 1. Place the title Baron-Ket in the top left-hand corner. So now I need to add a title to this video, right? So to do that, I'm going to click on the title section and I'm going to add a title. So just go over here and do this. I go up here to graphics and titles, so I can click on that there, and I'm going to go to new layer, text. So I've chosen the text layer here. Now the good thing about this is, you'll notice if you can look at it, it is already a sans serif font. There's no little hooks on the T or a base on the T or any serifs on this at all, so it's already a sans serif font. And I'm going to move it up to the top left-hand corner because that is what the exam says. It says place it in the top left-hand corner, so that's where it is there. Now I want to edit this text, so I just double-click on it, and I need to write Barong Ket. Okay, so there we go. I've got that. I'm going back to my pointer tool down here so that I don't accidentally change the text. It's right there, and I've put Barong Ket in the top left-hand corner. Now, it does not tell me on the exam paper the font size. It doesn't say, it just says place it in the top left-hand corner with a background dance 1. So that goes for 0 seconds. At the timestamp 4 seconds, the title and text background remain the same, with a subtitle added in the bottom right-hand corner. But that comes in at 4 seconds, okay? And it doesn't actually say to me how long the background title sits there, but I'm just going to leave that background title there until it looks like 28 seconds here. It looks like the video comes in. Time 15 seconds, audio clip comes in, background. So at 15 seconds, the background image, video, the file, dance 2 starts. Okay, now 8.2 seconds. So I need to make sure that my original background image goes through to 8.2 seconds, and then this heading comes in at 4 seconds. So I'm going to go down here to my background image. I'm going to click on this background image, and I'm going to run it across until it gets to 8.2 seconds, right? Now, is it 8.02 or 8.2? Let's have a good look at the exam question. So the exam paper says 8.2, not 02. So at 8.2, then we're going to move to the video dance 2 starts. No text is displayed. But at 4 seconds, traditional Balinese dance. And that's got to be in the bottom right-hand corner. So let's move that over here. So I'm just going to add some new text here. That's good. My dance goes through to 8.2. That has to stay all the way across. So I'm going to drag that out to 8.2, and I'm going to add a new layer of text, right? So I've got a new layer of text there. Make sure on my pointer tool, I'm going to go down to the bottom right-hand corner, and I'm going to double-click on that text, and I'm going to write in traditional Balinese dance. Okay, now, it doesn't say anything about the font size, about the way that it should be set out. It doesn't actually say anything like that. But for me, that's too big, right? If I put that there, it's going to take up the whole thing. So I'm actually just going to grab one of these corners, and I'm just going to scale it down to like a subheading. I'm going to put it over in the bottom right-hand corner, and that's where I think it should be, okay? Now, like I said, it doesn't say anything about your font sizes or anything like that, but it does say that it's a subtitle, right? So it shouldn't be as big as the title. So I've done that. Right, at 8.2 seconds, no text is displayed. So that means at 8.2 seconds, the text that is there needs to disappear, right? So if I run this right now, okay, now we've got a bit of a problem, right? And this is good. I'm kind of pleased that this has happened. As we go through this, you'll notice that text I just added is on the same layer as the Barong Ket. Now, they should be on different layers. So I'm just going to go Control Z, go back to there, and now it's on that layer, right? Now, I don't want it on the same layer. I actually want it up on this layer here. So I'm going to lock these 2 layers so they can't be touched, right? So I've just put, there's a tiny little lock there. I've just locked those 2 layers. Now if I go up to my graphics and text and say new text layer, it gives me a whole brand new text layer. And I think that's really important because I know that this one needs to go to 8.2, but it needs to start at 4. So that means it must start at 4.000. Where is it? Back to there. Right. So it goes for 4 seconds. So, no, in fact, let's just test that. Let's go back and read the specimen paper again. It says at 4 seconds, right? So, in fact, actual fact, it should go, if it's going from 4 to 8.2, that should be starting at 4 seconds, it would have to be 4.2 long, right? So understand what I'm doing there. If I know this goes to 8.2 seconds and I've made it so it butts up against the end up there, for it to come back and start at exactly 4, it would have to be 4.2 seconds long, right? Which is what I've done. I've made that 4.2 seconds long. So that should be correct, the length of that clip. Let's just check exactly what I'm saying there. That clip there should be, if that's 4 right there, timestamp 4.2 is there. That's where it should be starting, right? So now it's 4.2 seconds long. It starts at the 4-second time thing and it goes through to 8.2, so that should be exactly right. So go back to my question sheet and let's make sure I got that 100% right. Okay. The title and text remaining, traditional Balinese dance. Okay, and that starts at 4 seconds and goes through to 8.2. Okay, now let's edit that layout because I haven't actually edited it yet. So, okay, so I'll show you what I just did then. I couldn't see it, right? So if I double click on there, I can actually see all of my text layers here, and it actually comes up here and says new text layer. So if I go over to here, I can click on that new text layer and I can drag that and bring it over here. Now the other thing it does, which is good for when I double clicked on it, is brought up all of these different formatting tools for the font and for the size and for the justification, right or left, the fill color, all of those things. I could edit them if I want just by double clicking on the layer to bring up how it's going to work. Now the first thing I want to do is change the text. I need to make sure I get this exactly right, and it says the text needs to say traditional Balinese dance. So I'm just going to go in here, I'm going to change this to traditional Balinese dance. So I just copy and paste that because I was just being lazy. But I know that I've got it right now. Now the other thing is, this is supposed to be a subheading. So if this is a subheading, it's way too long. So I'm just going to click it roughly where I want, just roughly. And I'm actually going to grab the top corner and scale it down so it's like a subheading. Then I'm going to move the subheading over. I'm going to put it on the right-hand side over here, same as I did before. So now that looks correct, right? So it starts at 4 seconds, it goes through to 8 point whatever, and it looks like I've got that whole section correct. That looks good to me. I'm going to unlock these 2 layers. I might even click on one of these, just to make sure we're all okay. Good, and I am going to keep going. I'm going to keep going with the next section. I'm just going to pull this across and get rid of that because I don't need that right now. I need this timeline here to be a bit longer. There we go. Okay, so I'm just readjusting. Right, if I press play and play my file, there's my background. It's got the heading. It goes for the whole time. 4 seconds, the subheading comes in, and it's the right font. Right, so that's perfect. And it stops at 8.2. So let's go to the question and add the next section. So we go to the question, done that. No text is displayed. So that means at exactly that point, I don't want either of those to continue. So anything I add on after here, those 2 need to stay exactly as they are. So I'm actually just going to lock those and say don't change them at all, right? So the lock feature is sort of a little thing that I like to use so I know I don't make a mistake. Okay, it says at 8.2, video file dance2 starts. So I need to import that dance2 file in there. Now for me, all I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go down here. I'm going to say, where is the dance2 file? There it is, spec dance2. I just want to check that that's exactly the right file. It's called, dance2 underscore. So this is the one that, video file dance2 underscore starts. This is the one that we created, right? So that means that's this one here, dance2, that we created before. So I'm going to grab that, drag it down, and I'm actually just going to dump it right there, bang hard up against the 8.2 seconds. Now we can watch our little video and just see how we go, right? So it starts off, the heading's there, Baranket, then the new subheading comes in, traditional Balinese dance, then my video clip should start, right? And there it is, there's my video clip starting, and it should go for exactly the length that we saved our clip. Right, that's great, I'm really pleased with that. Let's go to the question and see what the next bit is. So I have done that. Video file 2 starts. At timestamp 15, the background image dance 3 comes in. The audio clip spec voice MP3 starts. That's at exactly 15 seconds. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to find my timestamp, and I'm going to go back to exactly 15 seconds, which I think is about there, right? Right, now what I'm doing is I'm actually looking at the timestamp in here, right? That's where I'm looking, okay? I'm not looking at the length of the clip, I'm looking at the timestamp, okay? So I think at timestamp 15 is exactly there, and so I'm going to there. Now, let's go back to the question again. We want to put in dance 3 still image and spec voice MP3 starts at 15 seconds. So I'm going to go to here, dance 3 and spec voice MP3. Right, so in my file here, I'm going to get dance 3, which is my saved still image. I'm going to grab that, I'm going to put that right there, bang. So I know right at 15 seconds, which is on the line there, that's where they start. I can prove that by saying, there it is, timestamp 15, that's where I'm starting, dance 3 comes in. At the same time, it says that I need audio for spec voice 3 to start. Okay, so spec voice 3 to start, so I'm going to go down here, I'm going to say spec voice 3, which is there, it's an audio file, exactly the same time. Now I'm dragging this below, notice I'm not dragging this above. Video goes above the line, audio goes below the line, so I'm putting spec voice in right there. Now it hasn't said cut this video back to 15 seconds, so I'm wondering whether there's a transition here from the audio over the top of that, or whether we leave that as is. I'm just going to go back to the start, I'm just going to play the whole lot and see how it goes. Right, so here's my video. Yep, Baronquette, that's good. 4 seconds come in, traditional Balinese dance. Then at exactly 15 seconds, the titles disappear, the audio comes in, the video's playing.
The Baronquette is a mythical beast, symbolising good. It combines the features of a tiger and an ox, and protects the Balinese villages from evil, which is represented in a dance like this. Okay, so there's a nice little audio that comes in over the top there. So that all seems okay to me. I'm not unhappy with any of that. I'm just scrubbing across to see the audio and the way that it's set up. Now, let's go back to my question. Let's just check the question here, see what else we need. 15 seconds, background image dance 3, audio clip, that starts. At 28 seconds, a smooth 2-second transition between 28 and 30 seconds into the clip spec dance 2 MP4. So we're saying at 28 seconds. So I'm assuming, and this is again an assumption, that that still image needs to go all the way through to 28 seconds. So if I grab that, grab the end, pull it all the way to the 28 second mark, which is right there, bang, right there. Now, it wants a 2-second transition, which is going to be up to about 30 seconds, which is right there, which is where we want the next clip to start, which is spec dance 2. So I'm going to grab spec dance 2, and I'm actually going to try and put it in at 30 seconds right there. No, it doesn't like that. Let's lock that layer. Grab spec dance 2, and let's just whack it in. Will it let me add a new layer? I want it to come in here. Maybe I can put it in down here. That'll do. 30 seconds. Put it there. Bang. Okay, so there's my new. That came in just audio. Now I don't want that. I want audio and video. So I'm going to grab the whole spec dance 2, grab it and put it in there. Why won't it let me go there? That's where I want it. There we go. Came in. Video and audio just came in. Now they want to transition in here between the two, so I need to add a transition. So let's go back up to here. Transition is essentially where there's a smooth changing from one image to another image. Okay, so if I watch this at the moment, if I go back to here and I just press play, there's just a black section in there, and then it jumps up. So there's no real smooth changeover from this dance 3 to this space dance spec dance 2. So if I go to here, my question actually says, and I just want to read this and make sure it says it exactly right, a smooth 2-second transition between 28 and 30 seconds into the video clip spec dance. So, and this is to happen at 28 seconds. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to see that's at 28 seconds right there. Now this is locked, and I can't really do it across layers like that. I mean, I can, but I don't want to. I want to do it on the same layer.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock that. I'm going to grab this spec dance and I'm going to put it on the same layer as this dance 3. I'm then going to move it over to 28 seconds because the exam said I needed it at 28 seconds. And I'm going to add a transition here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just, on that gap between the two, or the line right between the two, I'm going to right click, I'm going to say apply default transitions. And it's put a transition in here. Put a cross dissolve in. In fact, let's go and look at it before I do that. So if I just run the video here before the transition,
This.
see it jumps from one clip to another, right? It just jumps. There's nothing smooth about that. So I'm going to do that again. Right click on here, apply transition. Now we've got a cross dissolve in there. So now watch what happens. See, one clip fades into the other one. But when you read the exam question says a 2-second transition between 28 and 30 seconds into the video clip, right? So I need to make sure that that goes from 28 seconds, which is where it starts, and transitions for 2 seconds, which means it's going to go to 30 into that video clip there. So now that goes for 2 seconds. It's exactly on my 30 right there. So that's my 2-second cross dissolve. So now if we watch the video clip, it'll go from this still and it'll do a 2-second dissolve across into this new one. So let's hit play on that.
It's like this.
And there you go, it transitions into the new one. Now that's a cross dissolve. So in all programs, if you're using iMovie or Final Cut or Premiere Rush or any of those other ones, all of them have a cross dissolve in it and all of them work the same way. You either right click on the gap and say put a transition in, or you can even go and find the effects. So I can just go Window, show me the effects, and then go to the effects and you can grab a transition there and you can put that and drag it and put it in the middle there. Now I've done it, so I'm not going to do anything different. That's perfect. I've got the cross dissolve in there. So that solves question number, well, this part of question 11. So now let's go down to the last bit. Time 39.2, we want set a black background, display the appropriate credits that scroll up through the screen, including text edited by your name, centre number and candidate number. Right, so the appropriate credits, that's a little bit of a trick, I think, that display the appropriate credits. Because in the question, it actually says the original video was recorded by and the audio was by this. So I think they want you to credit these people up here in the credits down here and then put your edited by and your name and those sorts of things. So we're going to do that at 39.2 seconds. So let's get there first. So I'm just going to go down the bottom here. I'm going to scroll across and I'm going to go to 39.2. Now I'm just going to grab this. I'm just going to move it back to 39, which is right there. And then I'm just going to drag it out so I can see that it goes to 39.2, which is right there, 39.2. Now, I'm looking at the little dots that go along the top of here. It may not be super visible on the video, but 40 seconds is there, 39 is there, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, in fact, 39.2 is right there, right? So it has to be right there at 39.2, and we want to then make it go to black. Now, does it transition to black or does it just go black? Set the background, set a black background, display the appropriate credits on the screen, including text edited with your name. Okay, so I want to make sure I've got these. So I want to add some graphics and text, and I'm going to go to new layer. Now I just want to lock these because I don't want it on the wrong layer. I'm just going to lock this layer and I'm going to say graphics and text, new layer, let's go text, and that's actually coming down there, so I don't want that. I'm going to go Command Z on that. I'm actually going to lock that layer as well because I don't want it to be there. I actually want it right there, which is 39. Oh, it actually says 39.04, so I just want to make sure I get my playhead at exactly 39.2. 39 point. Now I'm looking, I'll show you where I'm looking in a second. I'm looking here, 39.2, right? So I've made it exactly at 39.2 there, which means I actually need to unlock this clip and make sure this clip goes right out to 39.2. So it's bang on exactly where it should be, right? 39.2. Okay, lock that clip, lock that clip. Now I'm going to go and add this text. So it's gone black. It doesn't say transition to black. It says just have a black background, and then let's put the text in. Right, now to put the text in, you can do it several different ways, and depends again on which program you're using. The way we've been doing it is we've been moving our playhead to where we want the text to start, which is going to be at this 39.2, and we could just put the text in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lock this layer here because I don't want the text coming in on that layer. So that's all my video layers locked, and I want to go up the top here again and say graphics and titles, new layer, new text layer. Okay, so here's my new text layer. Now remember before I double clicked on the text layer and I left this little window over here, this essential graphics window. I'm just going to open that up a little bit more here now, and I'm actually going to make a few of my changes in here with this essential graphics. So the first thing I'm going to do, I want to center my text, right? So I want to center it on the page right there, and I want to edit this text in here. Okay. Now I also might decide to, I don't know, change the font size a little bit. So I'm just going to reduce that down to say maybe 80%. If I can just get that to exactly 80. Doesn't want to go, there we go, to 80. So that's where I'm going to put that there. And now I need to start putting in the text that they've asked me to put in, right? So if I go back to my question, the question says, set the text background to set a black background. Now we can actually do that in this box here first, right? We actually go here to background. I'm on the bottom right hand corner down here. I can click on that little box there. I can click on the grey colour and I can say, right, I just want a black background. So I've got up to here to make it the blackest of black backgrounds. Now it already had a black background because there's no video there, but I just want to make sure 100% that I've got this right. So I've just set a black background. So that's the first bit. I've done that right. Next, display appropriate credits that scroll up the screen. So I would say the appropriate credits is this line here. Original video clip was created by GBR Video. So I'm going to write in here credits, right? And I might make that bold. In movies, sometimes they have that bold. So I'm just going to highlight that, go down here, make that bold. I'm going to hit return after it. And then I don't want it to be bold, so I'm going to turn the bold off. I might whack a return in before that, and I'm going to say original video. And then GBR video. GBR video. Okay, now I might even roll that to the next line as well. Put a colon there, hit return, GBR video. Now I'm going to hit return after that, and then another return, and I'm going to write audio, colon, return. Now, I know you can't see this on the screen here, but I can see it down over here on the left-hand side so that I make sure I'm writing the right thing. So I know you could move it up and move it around, but I don't want to do that. I just want to make sure that I've got it right here, right? So this has got to be KMB audio. And then I'm going to hit return, return. And this time I'm going to write, I think the next thing is edited by, so capital E, small b with a colon as well, so it's kind of consistent with the way I've been writing this. Alright, we're going to write by, colon, return, and I'm going to put, now what does it say to use, how to do this? It says your name, centre number, candidate number, so it's sort of the same format that we've been doing everything in, so I'm going to put Nick May, and in fact I'm going to put it with the space, oops. Nick May, space 1234, space 7777. Right. So for example, that's my they're my credits. Right. So I put my credits in here, made it bold at the start. Now it says set the background, display appropriate credits that scroll up the screen, including text edited by blah blah blah. Right. So I've made my text here. That's the actual text that I want it to work. Right. Now, how do I get it to scroll up the screen? Now, in Premiere Pro, it's really, really simple. And in fact, in all of these movie edited programs, I've said this before, all of these features that they're giving you in the exam are simple features. You've just got to know where to find them and how to do them, right? So I know that, because I know this software a little bit, I know that while I'm clicked on this text, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to work. But if I click off it, so I'm just going to change my tool to my pointer tool, and I click off it, now I'm on the actual scene itself, I have an option here to say roll. So if I click roll, and it says roll, start off the screen, end off the screen. Now I'm pretty sure that says scroll up the screen, right? So it's starting off the screen, it's ending off the screen, it's rolling, it's got a black background, and it's got my credits. Now, as I say to you, with all of these things, you need to test it and make sure it works. So I'm just going to move this across here a little bit. I'm going to hit play. And then there's my credits starting to roll up off the screen, and then we're done, okay? So it actually works. Now, if you wanted a little bit of intro time, right? So it kind of jumps straight from your video there, straight to the credits. Now, you could go up here to the right-hand side over here, and you could actually put in some intro time, right? So I could say, all right, I want it to have, say, 2 seconds intro time before that starts. So now if I run it, screen will go black, and I've got a little intro time. That's not a lot, right? So, in fact, I'm just going to leave that at 0 because it doesn't ask for any intro time, so I'm just going to leave it, okay? So that's it. We've finished that section there. So let's go back to the exam. Okay, that's it. It looks like I've finished that, right? Now, if I go down to the next question, which in fact is the last question of our exam, export your video clip as baronket underscore and then the number and that sort of stuff. And it has to be in MP4 format, right? So we've finished this. I'm going to go up here. I'm just going to hit save in here first as well because I just want to make sure I'm always saving and I've got all my work done, right? All of these video players, these video editors, you should be able to go up to, say, File and then go Export, and you should be able to export somewhere here in whatever format you need to export in, right? Or you can go Save As, and then you can save it as a Premiere Profile, right? But they've said specifically they want MP4 format. That's what they've said, and they've got a very good naming convention. Now, we set up our file at the start exactly under that naming convention. That's why I did it when we created the file, because I read forward and checked that this is the way that it had to be written. So I know that I've already got my file saved in the right format. I just need to now save it as an MP4. So to do that in Premiere Pro, you actually just go up here to the Export button. I was on Edit. I'm going across to Export. I go to Export. I check my file name, and it actually says MP4 at the end. So it's perfect. I can choose the location. I've told you that before. I can choose where I want to save that to. And then I can go down here. I can look at any of the settings if I want to check the settings, and I can hit the Export button. Now, this is where my video has crashed a couple of times because I'm using 2 video editors at the same time. But I'm just going to try this for you and just see how this works to change the location. Okay, and good. It worked this time straight away, right? So I just clicked on the location. I'm just going to change this to the desktop of my computer. So let's go to Nick May, desktop. So I'm going to save it to my desktop. And in fact, this is where my specimen paper is, right in there. So now I know that I'm all ready to go. I'm saving it as baronket1234 underscore 777. I check my file format down the bottom here, which is MP4, and I hit save. Now, depending on the length of the video, that can actually take a little bit of time. I know in iMovie, you'll see a little scrolling wheel up here, going up here, doing that, right? So that's all set up. Hit the export button, and there you go. You can see how long this is taking. This is a pretty quick one, right? So it should be done. It says that it's all done. Again, I'm just going to hit File, Save, just to make sure that I'm right. I'm going to minimize this, hide my Premiere Pro, go to my video section here, make sure that my file's here as an MP4. There it is there, baronket 1234777 MP4. I might even decide to double click it and play it in some other video player, right? So here we go. There's my heading, top left-hand corner. Bottom right-hand corner, my subheading comes in. I've got this still background, right? So that's what they ask to happen. Here comes the dance. Then it goes to a still background while this person talks.
It combines the features of a tiger and an ox and protects the Balinese villagers from evil, which is represented in a dance like this.
Okay, a bit more dancing with a nice transition, and then I need my scrolling titles at the end. I've credited the right people, and then it's got my information there exactly. So that's it. That's the end of the paper. I think we've probably taken just over 2 hours to do this, so maybe a bit longer. Maybe we've taken the full 2.5 hours. You just need to make sure you work through this paper and you're ready for your exam. All right, good luck.